We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 12a. The Gemara is continuing a statement from Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, who said that Rabbi Yochanan said the following: if a person says to his agent, "Say v'kidesh li isha stam," he says to him, "Go and betroth for me a woman, just a woman in general," but he doesn't explain to him which particular woman. It could be any woman. So then the halacha is asur b'chol hanashim sheba'olam. This person is now forbidden to marry all women in the world, because chazaka shliach osa shlichusa. There's a presumption that the shliach did his shlichus, meaning to say this agent went out and he was mekadesh some woman for this individual. V'kevan de lo parishle, and since he didn't explain to me, he didn't say who it was, so lo halo yada hey niu kadishle. We don't know which woman was betrothed to this man. And the halacha is that, let's say a person marries a woman, so all of those woman's direct relatives are now forbidden to him. In other words, the woman's mother is forbidden, the woman's daughter is forbidden, etc. And so now every single woman in the world, it's a suffix. Maybe that woman is related to the woman that this person just married, because he has no idea who his shliach was mekadesh on his behalf. That's the idea over here. Halo yada hey niu kadishle. He doesn't know which woman he was mekadesh through his agent. And so the Gemara continues, Eisvei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan a question from the following Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Kinan. The Mishnah says, Kain stuma sheparcha gozel echad mehen la'avir ha'olam. Let's say you have a nest. What it's referring to over here is you have a situation where the person is going to bring two birds as karbonos. Let's say you have a zav or a zava, yoledis or mitzora. So they separated two birds. One of them is going to be an ola, and one of them is going to be a chatos. But right now it's a stuma, meaning to say they have not identified, they have not selected which bird is going to be the ola and which is going to be the chatos. So one of those birds now flew off. Or maybe it flew off among a bunch of other birds which were carbon chatoses, which were said to die. Let's say one of them died. In all of these situations, in other words, the point is you can't use this one bird that either died or flew off. So what do? So yikach zug l'sheni, just get another bird to be a pair for that bird that still remains, and then you'll just designate in the normal fashion which one is an ola and which one is a chatos. And so the Gemara says, "V'ilu kain meforeshes ein lo takana." Now, let's say you had a situation where you had designated the birds. You said this particular bird is going to be the ola, and this bird is going to be the chatas. And then one of them flies off, and you have no idea which bird is which. So in those situations, you have no solution. There's nothing you can do in that case. V'ilu sharkin and bialma. Now, whereas other nests, let's say you have other sets of birds, and now we're afraid maybe this bird mixed up with those, but that we don't say is a problem. Misaklan, we say you don't have to worry about those. Those are fine, because we assume that when you take any other birds, we assume called the parish meruba parish. This bird was from the majority of the birds in the world. It's very unlikely that this bird happens to be the chatos or happens to be the ola that flew off. And so the Gemara now asks on Rabbi Yochanan, V'yamai, why should this be the case? Let's say you have this situation of these two birds, one's an ola, one's a chatos. One of them flies up. Why aren't we strict on all of the birds that remain in the world? V'yamai, why is that the case? Lema kol chada v'chada. We should say on every single bird that we find, Dil mahai niu, maybe this is the exact bird that flew off, just like we say by the situation where a person sends an agent to be mekadesh a woman. Now every single woman that this person wants to marry, we assume maybe it's a relative of the woman that the shliach was mekadesh on his behalf. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Le, he said back to him, I'm talking about a situation of a woman, and women in general do not move around. Their idea over here is that kol kavua, something that's in a fixed place, that's always kemechza mechza dami. We look at it like 50-50. We don't follow the rove in that situation, and by a woman, so she's generally going to be staying in the home. She's not moving around outside, and therefore we apply this rule, mechza mechza dami. V'amrit liyat isura denayit, and you're telling me about a prohibition which is moving around, meaning over here we're talking about birds that are flying around in the world. That's called the parish meruba parish, and we can follow the majority. And the Gemara says, V'chitayim. Now, if you're going to say, Hachanami nayid, maybe over here also, maybe the woman was not in her home, maybe he was mekadesh her in the marketplace. Eimer b'shuka ashkach v'kadesh. Maybe the shliach found her in the marketplace and was mekadesh, and therefore we have a situation of following the majority over here as well, who says that we have to apply the rule of kol kavua kemechza mechzadami. But the Gemara says, no, Hasam over there, hadral nichusa, she will return to her fixed place. In general, a lady is going to return to her home, to a fixed place, and therefore, again, we would apply the rule of kol kavua kemechza mechzadami, but gabe kain mi hadra. But when you're talking about a nest, when you're talking about the birds, it does not return, it is out in the world, and therefore we follow the majority. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Umoder Rabbi Yochanan would admit, Be'isha she'ein la lo bas v'lo bas bas. Let's say you have a woman, she doesn't have a daughter, she doesn't have a daughter of a daughter, v'lo bas ben, and she doesn't have a daughter of a son, v'lo aim, she doesn't have a mother, she doesn't have a mother of a mother, v'lo achos, and she doesn't have a sister. V'ava bisha haisa la achos v'niskar shaliachar mikan. Not only that, even let's say this particular woman, she had a sister, and that sister was married at the time that the person sent out the agent to be mekadesh someone on his behalf. So at that time, the agent could not have married this person off, could not have betrothed this particular sister because she was married. But that sister became divorced after. So now at this point in time already, this woman does have a sister who is unmarried. But in that situation also, Dahi Sharia, that particular woman is going to be permitted. Meaning this person who sent out an agent to be mekadesh a woman, and we have no idea which woman he was mekadesh, so in general we're saying that this person cannot marry any other woman because it might be a direct relative of a woman that he is married to. But that's not a problem if he finds a woman who doesn't have any of these kind of direct relatives. Then there's no way that he's married to her direct relative because she doesn't have any of these kind of direct relatives. And even if she has a sister, who in theory he could be married to her sister, but if at the time that he appointed the shliach, that sister was a married woman, so there's no way that the shliach could have been mekadesh that sister, so then it's fine. And that's what the Gemara explains. My time, and what's the reason? Devahi shaita de kamarle, because at the moment that he told the shliach to be mekadesh a woman, havin isivan legavre, that sister was married to someone else and he could not have been mekadesh that sister on this person's behalf. And therefore the Gemara says, kimash v'shliach, and when a person appoints a shliach, b'milsa de kaima kameh, it's only with all of the women that are available at that moment. Meaning to say, let's say later on, maybe the shliach is going to go later on, it's going to take a little bit of time, and maybe the shliach was mekadesh the sister after the sister had gotten divorced. We don't care about that possibility because we say that when a person appoints a shliach, the shliach is only meant to be mekadesh the women that are available at the moment that he was appointed. If a woman becomes available to become married after the shliach was appointed, the shliach is not going to become an agent, or he's not going to go through with it with that particular woman. He's not going to go ahead and say, I'm going to be mekadesh this woman for that individual when that woman wasn't available at the time of the shlichus. But if it's something that wasn't available at the time of the shlichus, lo mashvi shliach, he doesn't appoint a shliach for that purpose. So the person who's saying, go ahead, he tells the shliach, go ahead and be mekadesh a woman for me, he only has in mind that you should be mekadesh women that are available right now. If a woman becomes available later on, that is not going to count, and therefore again, if this person can find a woman to marry, and she has no direct relatives, and even though she has sisters, but those sisters at the moment he appointed the shliach, those sisters were not available to become married, because let's say those sisters were married, so then he could marry that woman because there's no chance that he's married to her direct relative. And so the Gemara now asks on this from our Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Hareini Nazir v'olai legaleach Nazir. Let's say a person says, I'm a Nazir, and also it's upon me to shave a Nazir, meaning I'm taking upon myself an obligation to bring karbanos on behalf of another Nazir. V'shama chaver, and his friend, here's what he says, V'yamar v'ani v'olai legaleach Nazir. And he says, also me, I'm also going to be a Nazir, and I'm also going to shave a Nazir. So the Mishnah said, Im hayu pikchin, if they're smart, megalchin zeh, then they'll shave one another, meaning they'll each bring the karbanos for the other one. V'im lav, and if not, if they're not smart, megalchin nazirim acherim, then they're each going to have to take care of the karbanos of some other nazir. And so the Gemara now points out, Bishlama Basra, I understand the person who said this, who made this statement, the second guy who made the statement. So Ika Kadma Kameh. So at the moment he made the statement and said, I'm going to bring karbanos on behalf of another Nazir, that first person was a Nazir. So he's included in the statement. Ela Kadma, but the first Nazir, when he makes the statement, that second person is not a Nazir yet. Mi'ika Basra Kameh, is the second one available yet to be a Nazir? And yet we say that the person, if they're smart, the Mishnah said, each one can bring the karbanos for the other. Meaning to say, even though at the moment he made the statement that I'm going to pay for the karbanos of a Nazir, that other person was not a Nazir, as long as the person is a Nazir at the later point in time, he can bring the karbanos on that person's behalf. And so therefore that is a question over here on the situation with the sisters. Because over here, when the person made a shliach and said to the shliach, go mi mekadesh a woman, so maybe it should include women that are available later on after the person appointed the shliach. Maybe it should include that sister, because that sister maybe got divorced a little bit later, and now the shliach can go ahead and be mekadesh that sister. But yet we said that's not the case. We said it doesn't include anyone who's not available to be married at the moment that the statement was made, at the moment that the shliach was appointed. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis.